Shalom, everyone. Today, we're going to be speaking about Nebuchadnezzar's statue, the elements and metals that it makes up, and what kingdoms are behind those elements and metals. We're also going to be speaking about the individual kingdoms and how they relate to that metal and how we know that they are that metal. We're going to be going deeper into it and the characteristics and the traits of those kingdoms. We're also going to be speaking about how does this affect us and what are things to come. First, I want to give all praises to the Most High Yah for allowing me to do this lesson, guiding me in this lesson, and just helping me along. And I hope that this is going to be edifying unto you and unto the Most High. So let's get right into it. All right, Nebuchadnezzar's statue. First, we're going to be speaking about who do the elements represent. Next, how do we know this? And then we're going to be speaking about what does this mean for our future. If people do not know, we have the gold, the silver, the brass. Also, we're going to get into that because it's really, I believe it's bronze, but we'll get into that. And the iron. And then we have the iron and clay, and then last the stone. All right. So, Nebuchadnezzar's dream and Daniel's interpretation. I'm going to start off with Daniel chapter 2, verse 31. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. Verse 32. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and arms of silver, his belly and thighs of brass. Hebrew meaning is copper or bronze, and that's the H5174. Verse 33. His legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, that they were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Verse 35. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. So it takes in these verses, it talks about first the gold, the kingdom behind that, then the silver, then the bronze, then the iron and clay, and then we get to the stone, which destroys them all. And we're going to get into each one of these kingdoms, and lastly, who that stone and what that kingdom represents, and what does that mean for us. First, who is the gold? The answer is Babylon. And Babylon reigned from 605 BC to 539 BC under King Nebuchadnezzar. And in this area, I'm going to be including the most notable kings, people that kings that we know about in these kingdoms. In some of these instances, there's going to be way more kings, Caesars, and rulers. But I'm not going to list them all. I'm just going to list the notable ones. Because in these time periods, multiple kings usually reigns. Daniel chapter 2, verse 38. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beast of the field and the fowls of the Shemaim, or heaven, hath he given into thine hand. and have made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. So this is the first kingdom to uh, reign on the statue. This is Babylon, the head of gold, and we're gonna get into how do we know this. Babylonian traits that relate to the head of gold. First reason how we know Babylon is the head of gold is it was one of the richest nations in history. Babylon was a very, very wealthy nation, and we're going to get into that. I don't think it's spoken about enough of how much they had as far as wealth. It was also one of the first kingdoms. Now, when I mean this, I'm also going to be including ancient Babylon, the ones right after the flood, um, with Nimrod. So I'm going to be including Nimrod's Babylon with this because there's just so much similarities between the two Babylons. And it's just I look at them as similar kingdoms, just at different points of time. So I'm going to be including Nimrod's Babylon in this and some of the characteristics. So yes, one of the first kingdoms, and then also it was one of the most influential nations in history. This one's also going to have examples from Nimrod's Babylon and Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon. And here are some images of the head of gold. We don't know if this is the exact what it looked like, but this is just a guess. And then you have the Tower of Babel and the region that Babylon took over. And it's interesting because as you, when we get into these, it talks about it taking over the world. So, or it being in control of the world, and we have spread out over time. But at first, like the world's population was condensed into a certain region, and it's in this region right here, Mesopotamia region, and this is what Babylon controlled. This is why they were referred to as the most powerful nation at this time. And then we have some of their, as I like to say, mascots. But they're like symbols. They're idols that they made. It's like a lion with wings. I guess half lion, half bird. This is the Ishtar Gate. We're gonna also get into that as well. And then you have Nebuchadnezzar. All right, so let's get into who is the silver. Answer is Persia. And Persia reigned from 539 BC to 331 BC under King Cyrus the Great and Darius. So the silver chest and arms is Persia. And we see this in Daniel chapter 2, verse 39. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. So the silver chest and arms, the kingdom of Persia being inferior to the gold, which makes sense. Silver being less than gold. And even as you see with Persia itself, even though it was able to take over Babylon, it is not really spoken about as much in history as something like Babylon was, because they were just looked at as still inferior in some ways, mainly financially. And we're going to get into the traits of how do we know that this is silver, is that they are the silver chest and arms. Well, they were the first to embrace a monetary system centered around coins. So Persia was also very wealthy. For my research, Babylon was wealthier. This is where you get this inferiorness from, I believe. But they were very, very wealthy because the coinage and all the dollars and stuff like that we use today, this stamping of paper, this stamping of these metals. Persia was the first ones to do this, and it's interesting how this correlates with silver. And then also, they are they were one of the richest nations in history. Not as rich as Babylon, but they were very, very rich. So this is how we know that Persia is silver. Next, who is the bronze? Answer: Greece. And they reigned from 331 BC to 168 BC under King Alexander the Great. So Greece was the belly and the bronze belly and thighs. And we're going to go to Daniel chapter 2 verse 39 to see this. And another third kingdom of brass or bronze, which shall bear rule over all the earth. So this is Greece. And it's interesting because it talks about the whole earth again. This was looked at as the world during the time, and Greece grew very, very fast and spread very, very fast, very, very quickly. Well, one of if it's not Rome, it's one of the fastest expansions that we see in history. Um, maybe you have maybe a lot of people also say the Mongols. They were very, very fast at spreading, but Alexander the Great spread very, very quickly. And let's get into how do we know that this is the bronze? Well, Grecian Empire traits that relate to stomach and thighs are bronze. First, most armor and weapons were made of bronze. So a lot of people don't know, because we see the statues, but many people, if you're not really doing your history into these nations, a lot of people don't know that during this time period, most of the armor, and specifically with Greece, were made of bronze. You have some other metals here and there, but mostly it was made of bronze. And it's interesting how they correlate to bronze. And then most statues were made of bronze. So more people may know this, that when we see all these statues and stuff, that they left behind, and that they built, they are all made of bronze. I mean, you have some other metals, of course, but mostly they were made of bronze. And then you just right here you see some images: the belly of the brass, a belly of bronze and thighs, the bronze belly and thighs. You see a city, you see their mascot, and they was very interested in the bulls for some reason. And then there's this person doing some type of trick on the bull. It's not wings. I thought it was, but no, it's someone doing something on the bull. And then you have a painting of Alexander the Great. All right, let's get into who is the iron. Answer: Rome. And they reigned from 168 BC to 476 AD under the Caesars. And we see this in Daniel chapter 2, verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh into pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break into pieces and bruise. So this is how we know that Rome is the iron. And even in this verse alone, unlike the other ones, it almost gives you evidence. It gives you evidence of it being Rome, just in this verse alone. And we're gonna get into that. First reason how we know that it was Rome is most weapons and armor were made of iron. So unlike the Greece, as we go closer to the present day, we see that it starts to be a shift from bronze to iron. Rome during the time was ruling during this time, during this shift. And when you look at the history and look at different paintings and stuff like that, you see that their soldiers were covered in iron. Again, they have other metals on them as well. Sometimes this may not be always the case, but most of the time and majority of the time, um, they were in full iron. Um, and the second reason is it is one of the most strongest militaries in history. So going back to the verse talks about how it breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things. Very very strong. Iron, one of the strongest metals um, on the periodic table. Not the strongest, but one of the strongest. Um, and we know Rome was one of, if not the strongest military for its time in the history of this world. So uh, this is how we know that Rome was the iron. And then we see the legs of iron right here. Uh, this is the region that Rome took. So I mean, just uh, the regions are just getting bigger and bigger, and this is no coincidence. Um, and as you get down, and as we keep on going, you're not going to see maps per se. This is the last um, historical map that you're going to see as we cross over to the iron and the clay. And I'm going to get to that and what time period that is in. But you see that it's expanding, right? So it's expanding out to the whole world. And that's just going to give you a hint of where this is going. And then you see that the city, one of their cities right here, they were very um, into the eagle. That was their symbol, the eagle. There's another country that's very into the eagle. And that'd be a different lesson that we get into and how those two relate. And then you see these soldiers right here, one of the paintings. A lot of iron. This is brass right here. And this looks like a general per se, somebody that's higher up in the ranks. They used to wear iron because of how it looks. I mean, the bronze. This is bronze, or it could be brass as well. During this time, and they used to wear bronze or brass sometimes because of how it looks. Mainly brass because it gives off this like kind of goldish type of color. Um, so they kind of like the look of it, so they wear it sometimes for decorations, pretty much. And then this is one of the Caesars. So during this time, Rome reigned. During the Roman reign, it was under multiple Caesars. Right here, this is Julius Caesar. He was just one of them, and there were some other ones as well. All right, let's get into the iron and the clay. All right, so for the iron and the clay, this is very interesting. And stay tuned, everybody, because I'm going through all these, but each of these is going to have its own breakdown. I'm going to be breaking down each of these and go into more detail of each of these um, further in this video and in the next videos to come. So there are two theories for who is the iron and the clay. First theory is that it was the 10 Kingdom revival of the Roman Empire by Isaac Newton. So he wrote down these different these different tribes in the regions they hosted in, and there's a theory that these they're going to come again. These people, these regions of these tribes are going to rise up. and they're going to be the 10 nations to rule the world. So this theory is that the 10 EU nations written by Isaac Newton during the height of the Roman Empire will rise again. And this is the Vandals, region North Africa, the Suevians, region West Spain, Portugal, the Visigoths, region Spain, the Alans, region Iran, Armenia, and Turkey, the Burgundians, region South France, the Franks, region France and Germany, the Britons, region Britain, the Huns, region Hungary, Romania, and Ukraine, the Lombards, region Austria, Serbia, and Hungary, and the Ravenna, region Italy. So these are the 10 EU regions, tribes, and these, you see, all these are in that part of the earth. Some people may say some of these regions, they were classified as Europe during this time. It's pretty much just to say that region in a sense. So that's the first theory. The second theory is the 10 United Nation region, also known as the World Empire. So this being the whole world. This iron and clay will rule the whole world, but this theory is that the land in which they are, I guess, how would you say, reviving from or established in, will be the entire earth. And this theory is that the world's nation will be broken up into 10 regions, which will be 10 nations. So the whole earth broken into 10 regions, each region being a nation that's going to rule. The first region, North America. Second, Latin America. Third, Sub-Saharan Africa. Fourth, Middle East and North Africa. Fifth, Europe. Sixth, Russia and Central Asia. Seventh, East Asia. Eighth, South Asia. Ninth, Southeast Asia. And then 10th, South Pacific. So these are going to be the 10 regions that, quote unquote, rule the earths. All right, and this is the two theory of who is the iron and the clay. There are many other theories as well, but these are the main two, and the two that when I was looking at makes the most sense. And then last but not least, who is the stone? Answer: New Jerusalem at Messiah's return. And as we see from the scriptures, this reign will be for 1,000 years under the Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach. So this is the stone, and we know this from not just Daniel chapter 2 verse 45, which we're gonna get into, but also just Revelations as well, as we know that this is going to be the last kingdom to reign on this earth. And we see this in Daniel chapter 2 verse 45. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake into pieces the iron, the brass or bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great Elohim hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. So we know that all these things will come to pass, especially this one. As we see with some of the other ones, first the gold, the silver, the bronze, and the iron, we see that that's already came to pass. We could just look back at the scriptures, history, and stuff like that. We know that the iron and the clay will come to pass. And I believe the iron and the clay is in this time period right now. Some say that it's already here. Some say that it's forming. We can get into that in another video. And we know that this one is going to be the last one. This is a future prophecy to come. That the stone, which represents Yeshua, and the kingdom, being that mountain, is going to be the last kingdom, the millennial kingdom that reigns for 1,000 years. And how do we know that this is a stone? Well, talks about stone cut out from the mountain without hands. So we know this, the millennial kingdom, New Jerusalem, is going to be this stone, because it talks about that this kingdom, this stone is going to be cut out without hands. And I'm pretty sure many of you already know where this is going. But if not, stay tuned. And also just stay tuned even if you do, because we're going to get into that cut out without hands. And then also it destroys all the other metals at the same time. It being a symbolism to it destroying all the kingdoms at the same time. And there's only one that we know that can do that. So this is who is the gold, the silver, the bronze, the iron and clay, and the stone. So these are the kingdoms that we know on Nebuchadnezzar's statue. Stay tuned, because in the next parts, we're going to be going over each of these kingdoms, the traits that relate, in a deeper dive into the traits, different historical accounts, and a lot of other different things, to just give further evidence and to prove things of the scripture. And this is what this is really about, is to prove the scriptures. There's a lot of people that don't believe in the Bible. They don't understand the Bible, that it was a historical book. And it's the best historical book that we have. And this is what this series is trying to prove. So there's many other things I can go to. I just chose to do Nebuchadnezzar statue. We hit on some other things in future videos. I want to give all esteem, all praise to the Most High for guiding me in this. He is showed me so much. It's all him, of how I'm able to do this. And I hope that you all were edified by this. And if you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments. And I hope all you have a rock day, a great day, and shalom.